Boru Aboye. The basic premise of my work is that the more you optimize your natural gifts and talents, the closer you get to fulfilling your destiny. And that has not only been true for my own life and my own practice, but also for the lives of numerous other people that I've served over the years. Now, the part that I need to introduce into the conversation is that the closer that you get to optimizing your natural gifts and talents, or the more you optimize your natural gifts and talents, the more your shadow nature will be evoked as well. So every natural gifts and talent has with it a built-in shadow nature. All right. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about how you can transform your shadow nature into spiritual elevation. But before we do that, let me remind you that this is the School of Orisha Studies, and I am your instructor, Obafemi Origunwa. Today's lesson is about transforming your shadow nature into spiritual elevation. So let's talk about some examples of what I mean by natural gifts and talents and shadow. Let's say, for example, your natural gifts and talents include beauty, right? Beauty, I consider a natural gift and talent. And it's not something that you work for. It's not something that you really do anything for. You look at people like Lupita Nyong'o, right? That's just natural beauty. It's not just that, she has features, but her whole presence is very beautiful. It's very elegant. It's a full package, and it's not something that she had to do something for, right? It's natural. It was a gift. It was given to her. But now, as you start to cultivate that beauty, maybe the shadow would be vanity, right? Well, because I'm so beautiful, you owe me attention. Perhaps your natural gifts and talents include intelligence. And you feel like as you develop your intellect and you become more and more, smart or educated, people are entitled to do what you say. They owe you, this deference because you know everything. You have to be right about everything. Maybe your natural gifts and talents include leadership. And as a result, you rise to a position of power and authority. But the shadow then becomes you feel entitled to respect and deference. Okay? On and on. Every form of natural gifts and talents has built within it a shadow nature. And you can hear the language that I'm using actually, and it can express itself as entitlement. You feel like because of who you are, what you know, what you bring to the table, people somehow just owe you something. They're just supposed to, move into place and start, giving you something strictly based on the fact that this is your natural gift and talent. This is your contribution. Okay? And that's not proper. That's not proper. There's a lot of verses of Ifa that exemplify that kind of an expression. Most pointedly, I'm thinking of a verse of Ifa that is tells the story of the elder of Ikpakpo Kingdom and the youth of Ikpakpo Kingdom. This is a verse that many of us know, will be familiar with. But the short version of it is that the two of them, the elder and the youth, were going into a business venture, and the two of them were told to sacrifice. The elder felt like, well, because of his position as the elder, he didn't have to sacrifice. The youth, on the other hand, adhered to the message and made the sacrifice. As a result, everything that they worked for was taken from the elder and given to the youth, right? Because the elder was relying on his position. He was relying on the built-in seniority system that says that he is, entitled to whatever he wants because he's the shot caller by virtue of his age and seniority. Okay? And so what Ifa is teaching us in that particular verse is that you have not a sense of entitlement based on your natural gifts and talents, not based on your position. You have an obligation based on your natural gifts and talents, right? There's a slight difference. Nobody owes you anything because of who you are and what you do and what you bring into the equation. Nobody owes you. You are the one who are obliged to serve. You're obliged to use those natural gifts and talents in service of the greater community, right? And this is built into the nature of sacrifice. This is why Ifa, you can take any verse of Ifa. I just used that as an example because it came to mind. But every verse of Ifa has that same message encoded into it. This is what makes Ifa particular. This is what makes Orunmila particular as a divinity. Because Orunmila only knows one thing. It is sacrifice. And when we say sacrifice, in English we might, we will say you make a sacrifice. But in Yoruba, it's to bear a sacrifice. Riru ebo. And so there's that saying. Riru ebo ni beni. To bear a sacrifice, to carry a sacrifice is beneficial to everyone. Failure to sacrifice is beneficial to no one. And so you bear a sacrifice, you carry a sacrifice, right? Your sacrifice is kind of a burden that you carry and you bring it to. It's a form of service. And what happens to your sacrifice? It's used to feed. By definition, that's why the sacrificial items are always food, right? Food is always included in the sacrificial items because it is meant to serve the greater community, the spiritual community as well, right? So you carry your sacrifice, and then that sacrifice is carried out. The sacrifice will go to Eshu, and he will carry that sacrifice out to the various, elements and entities in the spiritual realm, and they will be served and nourished and eased, right? Put at ease by the sacrifice that you have made. So your sacrifice is a service that quells. It's a sacrifice that satisfies, right? So Ifa is always calling us to remember that no matter what our position is, no matter how high or how low, we are obliged to serve. If we want to realize certain things in our lives, we have to serve. Okay? So that is the case, especially when it comes to your natural gifts and talents. And as you start to get better and better and better at what you do, and you start to realize the value that you add to every circumstance, you're going to be tempted to become entitled. But Ifa, by definition, is going to remind you that no matter how successful you are, no matter how powerful you are, no matter how highly revered you are, your obligation is to serve. And if you ever are in doubt, you're concerned about, oh my God, how am I going to serve in this capacity or with this particular group of people? You got to remember that your service is to a higher power. You're ultimately in service to helping to bring about the good condition. That's your role. That's your purpose as a person, as Anion. We're here to help bring about the good condition whereby we balance heaven and earth. This is why we were created. This is why we chose to come into the world. Okay? It's not just that we were created to be little robots and Olodumare sent us down. Every one of our Ori chose. The only reason you're here is because your Ori chose to be here. And the only reason you have the natural gifts and talents that you do have is because your Ori chose those natural gifts and talents. So by choosing those talents, you also are choosing the obligations that go with those talents that will allow you to serve. Okay, so it's a really nice and very consistent system that I want you to take into consideration as you learn to optimize your natural gifts and talents. Aboro aboye, aboshishen.